Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolitz. Hoping that you will not skip my ads. It's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much. Dragon Shadow. The Rise.
Many similar voices rang out on the square. Many frowned as if they were facing a huge problem.
Looks like the requirements to join the Alchemy Conference are really high. Only the most talented ones can pass the test.
Zane Martel smiled calmly. However, when he looked at the others, he noticed some were expressionless as they picked up the spiritual herbs in their jade boxes and began the refinement process. Especially Victor Chen and Chloe Thompson of the Demon God sect. 2 red and white flames already appeared in their hands, crackling in the air, indicating that they had started refining the herbs. Seeing that, Zane Martel also prepared to begin his refinement. A green pill appeared in his hand. He threw it into his mouth. Suddenly, a ball of green flame burst out. This was the 3 elements fire pill Zane Martel had specially refined for the Alchemy Conference. After taking the pill, he could temporarily use the flame. The alchemy fire was different from the flame used in battle. Therefore, one must be skillful enough to control the alchemy fire accurately and make sure it would not be too less or too much. For those who had comprehended the power of fire, their flames could easily end someone's life. That power was absolutely not something that could be used to refine pills. An ordinary alchemist would usually cultivate a flame technique or subdue some of the unique flames in the world. Zane Martel had once attempted to subdue the 9 genuine flames of the divine bow in his left hand. However, the 9 genuine flames did not appear to be something that he could completely control. He could only subdue it after improving his level. Zane Martel clapped his hands and a cluster of dark green flames quickly devoured a dark red elixir furnace in front of him. Then he threw the ancient spirit branch into the elixir furnace. He slowly used up his vital energy and began to control the green flames to pour them into the elixir furnace. Soon the cold elixir furnace immediately became warmer and warmer. The green flames rose and swirled around the ancient spirit branch. The sound of something burning could be heard from within the elixir furnace. Zane Martel's fingers flicked agilely. He was able to control the flame more and more accurately. Suddenly, the ancient spirit branch began to dry up, and a few wisps of white smoke rose from it. From the audience seats of the 7 Stars Square, many people held their breath and looked intensely at the alchemists. The scene was very quiet. No one dared to speak for fear that they would disrupt the alchemist. From the judges' seats, Master Rovan Guhi, Master Griffith, Gary Sombers, and the others kept looking back and forth at the tens of thousands of alchemists. They occasionally nodded and shook their heads.
Looks like there are quite a number of strong talents that joined the Alchemy Conference this time. They are trying their best to raise the purity of their refinement.
Master Rovan Guha laughed while stroking his long beard.
But some people who don't have enough talent are probably racking their brains to find a way to achieve level 6 of refinement. It's a waste of time for those people.
The ancient spirit branch had completely dried up within Zane Martel's elixir furnace. It was no longer what it looked like, and it had even been burnt into powder, slowly blown away by the wind. A drop of thumb-sized liquid was rotating within the elixir furnace. It was wrapped by a dark green flame that was not wholly vaporized despite the burning flames. Zane Martel had completed his first level of refinement, and he looked very relaxed. However, Zane Martel did not stop. Instead, he continued to control the dark green flame and refine this drop of essence liquid. Within the flame, the liquid kept rolling and bubbles began to come out of it. Soon he surpassed the 2nd level of refinement. At this moment, the essence liquid was much purer and purer than it was in the beginning. The same scene happened to many other elixir furnaces in the square, especially Victor Chen and Chloe Thompson from the Demon God sect. These 2 were absolutely geniuses at alchemy. Their speed was even faster than Zane Martel's. They had refined their herbs 4 times, and there was a drop of liquid and a powder similar to a green pill in their furnaces. It should be noted that the more times the herbs were refined, the more difficult the refinement process would be. But the 2 of them still looked very relaxed, and it seemed that they were going for the 5th refinement. The people around Victor Chen and Chloe Thompson were dumbfounded to see this scene. After all, they only managed to refine their herbs twice despite putting in a lot of effort. It was a little tough for them to proceed to the 3rd refinement, Yet the two were so impressive. They easily surpassed the first 4 levels and were about to start the 5th refinement. Soon, Zane Martel's refinement speed also became faster and faster. Unlike Victor Chen, Zane Martel at this moment was disguised as an old man in his 70s and 80s, wearing a black robe. His disguise enabled him to keep a low profile and away from the spotlight. Thus, almost no one noticed Zane Martel's refinement speed was almost as fast as that of Victor Chen and Chloe Thompson. It was no exaggeration to say he might be even faster than them. Half an hour later, many people in the square were still stuck in the 3rd or 4th refinement. Their foreheads were covered in sweat, and their brows were tightly knitted, looking angry and anxious. They cursed in their hearts that the Alchemist Association made the first round so difficult. Victor Chen pressed his hands on the elixir furnace, and a cluster of purple flames rose from his arm and kept pouring into the furnace. At this moment, Victor Chen had already reached the 8th refinement and was about to start the 9th refinement. The 9th refinement was more than 100 times trickier than that of the first time. Even geniuses like Victor Chen had to be cautious. Seeing this, Chloe Thompson, who was standing aside, had no expression as she put down her hands and said to Victor Chen indifferently,
Victor Chen, 8 times are more than enough, don't you think? Why are you still refining? Do you think there will be more than 2,000 people here who can surpass the 8th refinement?
Chloe Thompson had already refined her herb for the 8th time, and she did not intend to continue. In her opinion, 8 times were more than enough. But Victor Chen curled his lips and said with a little complacency,
I know the vast majority of the 10,000 alchemists here is trash, and not many of them can refine their herbs 8 times. But for me, it's not enough. If I'm doing this, I want to be the best. I won't stop until I refine this herb 10 times.
Hearing that, the people around him were angered and almost passed out due to their shock. 10 refinements? What should they do when they weren't even confident enough to reach 5 refinements? Moreover, the 10th refinement was more than 100 times more difficult. Without enough experience and strong willpower, it was almost impossible for one to accomplish that.
You're childish.
Chloe Thompson rolled her eyes coldly and said nothing more. Instead, she sat down while waiting for the first round to end. Another 10 minutes or so passed. Beads of sweat the size of beans were hanging on Zane Martel's forehead. He frowned. He had already reached the 9th refinement, and he did not consume much.
I'm so tired.
Zane Martel stretched his waist and exhaled a breath of air. The 9th refinement was finally over. However, he glanced around and found that most people had no intention of stopping. He couldn't help but feel confused.
Still refining? Shouldn't it be enough after refining for such a long time?
Zane Martel was not very confident. In his opinion, 9 refinements were already enough to pass the test. Normally, one would only refine the spiritual herbs 2 or 3 times, or at most 4 times. However, after glancing in Victor Chen and Chloe Thompson's direction, he noticed Victor Chen was still refining and had no signs of stopping.
Since the Demon God sect has also sent people over, I might as well continue with my refinement if they are yet to stop refining.
A green flame appeared again in Zane Martel's hand. It poured into the elixir furnace and wrapped tightly around the liquid. Time flew by, and soon the time limit was up. The moment the bell rang, everyone stopped doing what they were doing. Right then, Master Rovan Gua and several other judges stood up and said to the crowd,
Everyone, time's up. We'll use special instruments to measure the degree of your refinement and determine your ranking. The first 2,000 alchemists will advance to the next round.
As he spoke, the several hundred members of the Alchemist Association walked over with an exquisite item in their hands, beginning to scout the other alchemists. When the member stood in front of Zane Martel, his expression clearly changed a little, after which he hurriedly left. Zane Martel did not pay much attention to that. Soon, the result of the test was collected and counted. As the organizer of this event, Master Rovan Gua stepped forward and announced,
Now that the results are out, I'm happy to tell everyone the highest refinement record we have today is 10 refinements.
As soon as the announcement was made, the originally lively scene was dead silent. Everyone remained silent. In the sky above the square hung a giant screen, and 2,000 names appeared on the screen. Obviously, the names were the ones who had passed the first round of the test. Trevor Collins was ranked 33rd after making 7 refinements. Chloe Thompson ranked 2nd for making 8 refinements. The one ranked first was none other than Victor Chen from the Demon God sect, who made 10 refinements. The square exploded in an uproar, with countless people screaming wildly.
What? 10 times? Damn it, is there a mistake?
Is there anything wrong with their measurement devices?
Heavens, 10 refinements 10 times. That's inhuman. It looks like we already have a champion for this alchemy conference.
He is indeed the alchemy genius of the Demon God sect. It seems that Victor Chen will surely win this time.
Master Rovan Guha and the other judges couldn't help but nod in praise.
He is indeed remarkable for making such achievements at such a young age. The younger generation is formidable. I'm afraid he will surpass us, the older generation, soon.
That's right. Looks like the first prize of the Alchemy Conference this time, the Marshall Breaking Pill, is likely to be claimed by the Demon God sect.
Victor Chen was delighted to be praised by them. He stretched his arms and closed his eyes to enjoy the pleasure of being worshipped.
Ha ha ha! It feels amazing. No matter how many times I've experienced being showered with praises, I won't get tired of the feeling. Chloe Thompson, if you try harder, you could have refined it 9 times.
You're childish.
It seemed that Chloe Thompson was not interested in the ranking. However, at this moment, the ranking on the giant screen suddenly changed. As if it had wings, one of the names leaped up from the top 100 to the top 20. Then it reached the top 5. In the end, the name surpassed Chloe Thompson, who was ranked 2nd. The name was ranked side by side with the first name, Victor Chen.
Look, the ranking has changed. In addition to Victor Chen, there is another person who has refined it 10 times.
Lai? Who is Lai? Why have I never heard of this person's name?
All of a sudden, the audience was overwhelmed and couldn't believe their eyes. Even Master Rovan Guha and the others were very surprised by the turn of events.
This Lai guy also managed to reach 10 refinements. It seems like the conference this time is getting interesting.
Lai? Who exactly is the Lai? How could this be? He actually reached 10 refinements like me. Who the hell is Lai?
Victor Chen was stunned at first. The dazzling red light on the screen shone on his astonished face. He stared blankly at the screen. His heart suddenly skipped a beat, and the expression changed wildly.
No one can ever be on par as me. Show yourself, Lai.
He was furious and yelled at the crowd. A wave of pressure was released, surrounding the entire place. Many people's faces fell because of the pressure.
That's enough. You're still ranked first, aren't you?
I would only be considered at the top if I were the only one ranked first. I can't allow anyone in this venue to be on par with me. I will refine it 11 times. No, 12 times.
Victor Chen gradually turned red from his neck to his ears. He was no longer the gentleman he appeared to be at first. When Brandon Hayes saw the person ranked number 1 on the screen was actually Lai, he jumped up in excitement. He looked even more excited than Zane Martel.
Master Lai, look, you're ranked first. You actually reached 10 refinements. This is unbelievable.
Lai? Is he Lai?
Upon hearing Brandon Hayes' words, many people turned to look in his direction in unison.
Although he reached 10 refinements, which means his alchemy must be superb, he's already so old. In comparison, I still think Victor Chen is more talented.
The people around them murmured. At this moment, Zane Martel disguised himself as an old man in his 70s or 80s. Many people attributed Zane Martel's talent for making 10 refinements to his age and experience. Although he had refined it 10 times and was equally impressive, compared to the 25 or 26 years old Victor Chen, Zane Martel was clearly inferior.
This old man is Lai? He only accumulated his experience over the years. There's nothing great about that. I will crush you in the upcoming rounds.
There was infinite murderous intent in Victor Chen's eyes. Zane Martel looked at his expression. Instead of avoiding Chen, Zane Martel revealed a strange smile as he looked at Victor Chen.
Master Lai, your experience is indeed impressive. I believe you will definitely achieve great results in this alchemy conference.
Thanks.
Although Master Rovan Guha and the others knew Zane Martel had participated in the alchemy conference, they were unaware of his disguise. Thus, at that moment, they did not associate Lai and Zane Martel together.
Victor Chen, you're living proof that the younger generation is indeed formidable. Your talent is astonishing. I wonder if you are interested in joining the Alchemist Association after the Alchemy Conference.
As soon as Master Rovan Guha suggested that, countless people burst into an uproar.
Did he directly invite Victor Chen to join the association? It was such a great honor.
Victor Chen was complacent and enjoyed basking in the glory of this moment. He did not stand during the ceremony and said,
Haha, being a member of the Alchemist Association is nothing. My goal is to become the strongest alchemist in the entire Mystic territory.
Master Rovan Guha frowned.
Victor Chen didn't show them any respect at all. How could Victor Chen belittle them in public?
Many people also found it inappropriate. After all, Master Rovan Guhe had quite a strong reputation as one of the few master alchemists in the Qing continent. Yet Victor Chen looked down on him. He even looked down on the Alchemist Association. Seeing this, the judges smiled awkwardly and then returned to their seats.
Victor Chen, do you know what you said just now offended those judges? Aren't you afraid you can't get the marshal-breaking pill formula after insulting them?
Chloe Thompson felt that what Victor Chen said was very inappropriate. She admitted that Victor Chen was talented, but he was also too arrogant.
What do you know? This is the only way you can enjoy all the joy after winning. Anyway, no one here can surpass me.
Victor Chen didn't take her advice to heart. Soon, the alchemists that didn't enter the second round withdrew from the square dejectedly and sat down in the audience seat. After all, it was rare to have a tie for the first ranking. Even if they couldn't advance to the next round, the other alchemists decided to stay back and watch who would be ranked first. The 2,000 people who advanced to the next round rested for a while before continuing with the second round of the competition.
The second round of the test focuses on alchemy skills. Your final result will be determined by the number and quality of pills you refined. Now that you've learned the rules, let's start the second round.
Master Rovan Guhe raised his hand and suddenly waved it down. Right then, 2,000 flames of different colors appeared on the square, resembling flowers made of fire. Hundreds of fire flowers bloomed at the same time. The magnificent scene made people's blood boil with excitement. Zane Martel stood in front of his own greenstone alchemy platform. He did not immediately begin to refine the pill. Instead, he quietly picked up the recipe in front of him. There were more than 2,000 people in the square, and most of them were given different recipes. There were about slightly more than 10 recipes distributed to them, and almost no exception, they were all third-grade recipes. Zane Martel frowned and quietly looked at the few medicinal ingredients in the recipe. Information about these medicinal ingredients instantly appeared in his mind. To him, it was a piece of cake to concoct a third-grade medicinal pill, but the recipe wasn't that simple. Only 7 or 8 kinds of medicinal ingredients were listed on it, and the description was very general. Zane Martel even felt that some listed spiritual herbs were inaccurate. Although most medicinal pills Zane Martel had refined before this relied on the Shadow of the Dragon Devourer's decryption, he still accumulated quite a lot of information and experience in refining medicinal pills. The medicinal pill he was required to refine this time was a third-grade medicinal pill called the Blood Melting Pill. As the name suggested, it was used to restore blood and heal injuries. Generally speaking, the pill was not too precious in the market. One pill was worth several thousand to 10,000 crystals. Compared to those pills that could improve one's vital energy, refine one's body, and break through one's level, this medicinal pill appeared rather shabby.
This recipe seems to be lacking a few supplementary medicinal ingredients. If I follow the recipe to refine the pill, the furnace will likely explode.
Zane Martel pondered for a moment and reached a conclusion. Sure enough, right after he said this, an alchemist in his 30s standing not far away from Zane Martel had his furnace explode. A yellow flame rose into the sky and formed a flower of flame. The whole elixir furnace was blown away, and the alchemist was blown away by the air blast. The alchemist fell heavily on the ground, rolling and tossing around. As a result, many of his bones were broken.
No. Why did the furnace explode?
It seems that being an alchemist is way too tough. A careless mistake will result in a failed refinement and an explosion in the furnace.
This shocking scene caused quite a stir among the audience. Suddenly there was another person whose furnace exploded. This time, the injury was even more serious. Half of his arm almost blasted apart. In the next dozen minutes or so, alchemists in the square kept getting into trouble due to their failed refinements, and their furnaces exploded. Different flames rose to the sky, making a scene as gorgeous and colorful as the fireworks show at a banquet.
Ignorant fools. Anyone with a brain will know the association did not give us the complete recipe. How could you refine it accordingly without even stopping for a second to think? Are you guys sick of living?
Victor Chen was highly gifted in alchemy, so the moment he got the recipe, he could already tell something was amiss. Although it took Chloe Thompson a little time, she could also tell that something was wrong. Only 12 to 20 people could see through the minor issues in their recipes, like Zane Martel and Victor Chen. They frowned and began to rack their brains to find out the flaws in the recipe and come up with a list of extra medicinal ingredients they needed.
Lie. Let's see what you will show us this time. I will never allow you to be on par with me. You aren't qualified enough to share my glory.
With this, he turned around and the flame in his hand became stronger. The flame poured into the elixir furnace and began to burn fiercely. With a crackling sound, Victor Chen began to put the spiritual herbs listed in the recipe into the furnace, and then he began to recall his knowledge. His movements were smooth and effortless without taking any pauses in between. A patrolling member of the Alchemist Association also noticed Victor Chen was moving his hands as fast as lightning with no signs of stopping. He was dumbfounded and couldn't help but marvel at Victor Chen's speed.
Victor Chen is indeed an alchemy genius from the Demon God sect. If nothing unexpected happens, he will surely win champion this time. It is very likely that Victor Chen will be crowned champion, and they will get the martial breaking pill recipe by then too.
Although his voice was soft, it reached Victor Chen's ears, and Victor Chen couldn't help feeling complacent. It was exactly what Victor Chen wanted to see. He wanted to impress everyone. He wanted to stand on top of everyone and view the world condescendingly.
You have great taste. The martial breaking pill will certainly fall into my hands. Lai and the Alchemist Association are nothing in my eyes. I will become the most powerful alchemist in mystic territory.
Victor Chen exclaimed in his heart. As for Zane Martel, he frowned and pondered.
There are at least 5 spiritual herbs missing from this recipe. If I start the refinement so abruptly, I will only end up like them.
Zane Martel fixated his gaze ahead of him as he murmured to himself. Around him, many alchemists had started the refinement process without spotting the flaws in their recipes and ended up having their furnaces explode. The monstrous fire rushed out of their furnaces and swallowed the alchemists at the platforms. The strong impact directly sent them flying away. One by one, they crashed and rolled on the ground. Although Brandon Hayes, standing next to Zane Martel, did not make his furnace explode, his head was still covered in sweat due to his anxiety. Perhaps he could tell something was strange about the recipe, but he did not know what to do to fix the flaws. More than 2,000 alchemists were in the square. At this moment, no more than 400 alchemists were already injured due to the furnace explosion. Soon, the rest more or less realized something was wrong with the recipe. Even if they could not pinpoint the flaws in the recipe, it was enough for them to vaguely feel something was amiss from the recipe from the furnace explosion alone. However, knowing that there was a problem with the recipes was one thing, and knowing how to modify the recipes was another. Most people didn't know how to fix it, or which medicinal herbs they should use to replace the ones listed in their recipes. There were very few, not more than 12 people proficient in medicine who could try to fix the recipes and fill in the missing ingredients.
It's better to use the jello flower instead of the drunken dragon grass. I can use the reserve energy of the 5 reserve bone-melting fruit to neutralize the spiritual energy of the jello flower, and then...
Then he began to take action. He found what he needed from the pile of spiritual herbs aside that was prepared for them. A dark green flame rose from Zane Martel's hand and rushed into the elixir furnace like a hungry wolf.